And good evening, good morning, good day, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for joining us yet again for another live stream from home in Italy. My name's David Benton, and together with my wife Silvana, we've been helping foreign buyers buy, restore, and move to this beautiful country of Italy. Great, so many people hopefully will be joining us again this evening. These streaming sessions are going extremely well. I'm so happy for the support, so thank you so much. I know it does take a while for people to come on board. I don't know if there's a little bit of delay between YouTube and Facebook, but hopefully everybody should be coming in. So please go into the chat box, send us a few messages, let us know that that somebody's there in the world, and so it doesn't look like I'm just talking away to this little camera and absolutely nobody other than Tony, who's in the background, as per usual, can be sat watching me. Hopefully there's more than just him. So please type away in the chat box. Let us know that you are here. And as you've just heard, Tony now with his sound effects. He likes his little childish games, as you will know. He's the idiot that's doing the sound effects in the background. He's also the one that will put up the questions as we go along. So please feel free to ask questions as we go along related to tonight's topic, which is a little bit open. It's called How to Avoid Early Pitfalls. Certainly not about scaring anybody. I don't want to sort of say things that that people need to be concerned about or anything like that. I just want to have some realities, really, and just let her know you a few things that you should know before you even set foot over here, and a couple of really important bits as well. So I'd say thank you so much for joining us. I can see now there's more and more people coming in, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to go through what we're doing in the coming weeks. I've got a couple of let's have a quick look, get one of these on. So next week, I do understand tonight a little birdie told me that another, I don't know if it's a Facebook group or whatever, are holding live streams at pretty much the same time as us. I think they're half an hour after us. How dare they? I can hear you say. But yeah, if anybody is thinking about popping over to that one, first of all, don't. Stay with us. And second of all, because I hear that they're talking about something we're going to be talking about next week, which is tax affairs. So if you are interested in knowing about taxes that you may be liable to pay if you're moving to Italy, maybe you're just buying a holiday home here and you want to rent it out, and also things like the 7% tax incentives that Italy is offering to retirees, then please join us next week when we've got Mr. Grim Reaper himself, Gianluigi, who likes to bring us all the bad news about taxes. Sometimes he gives us some good news, but he'll be joining us next Thursday. So yeah, if you're thinking about changing channels this evening and going on to the other webinar that people have done some advertising for, you don't have to. Just stay with us, and then you can join in next Thursday where we have a lot more fun. We're not as serious as all the other people. Anyway, that's the 20th of April. Then on the 27th, we have our usual subject, which is Meet the Home Buyers. I'm yet to decide which home buyers I'm going to bring on there. I am hoping a particular couple that been out recently that found a house in the dying seconds of before they left to go home. So I am hoping that they're going to join us. If you've never seen Meet the Home Buyers before, basically we talk to people that have maybe just been out, just put an offer down, maybe they've just done the contract and that kind of thing. So that's always an enjoyable one. That's on the 27th. And then after that, we're in May. Can you believe we're almost in May? That's just ridiculous. So I'll be putting the May program together with a couple of new live streaming sessions and all that kind of thing as soon as possible. And also in May, we have the group tour that I mentioned so many times. We have our group coming out and on the 4th and 5th of May, which I'm really looking forward to. Completely booked up now. The coach is full, so to speak, but I will be doing another one of these tours in October. And then from next year, I'm going to try and do them at least maybe 3-4 times a year, maybe more. But the group tours, just in case you are interested, basically what we do is we meet up in a place in Pescara. We have an aperitivo together. We then sort of explain what's going to be happening for the following couple of days. Then we take you around lots of towns and villages. We show you properties and all that kind of thing, and just get a really good feel for Abruzzo, which is obviously where we are. And so it's usually a great thing because everybody's pretty much in the same boat. Everybody's looking for a property, someone looking to move here, someone moving, just looking at holiday properties. But it's great to get a group of people together that have got the same things in mind. It's always they're great trips, and we are going to do another one in October. So I will be, I know that's sort of another, well, it's only 5 months nearly. That's ridiculous. Anyway, but I will be advertising that soon. If it's something that you think you may be interested in, because the seats, thankfully, usually go pretty quick, then please let us know. Please let us know by sending me an email at info@homeinitaly.com. And when I say that, Tony should change this thing that goes along that's got the website. He usually, which he's not going to do now I've said that. There it is. Look, there's the email, info@homeinitaly.com. So if you are interested and you want us to put your name down for once we've actually made all the arrangements, then please email me and let me know, and I will make sure we put your name to one side. Okay, so anybody that's just joined in now, as I was saying before, the people that are going, that are doing the other streaming session in competition with us in 25 minutes, you no need to go to theirs. Stay with us tonight, because next week we're talking about tax events as well. So there you go. Okay, I can see a good few people coming in from all over the world again, which is always fantastic. Just a quick one that Maria's saying, I have a question. Is the web page up to date? Because I've seen some of the house advertised that seem to have been bought by some of the meet the home buyers. It is. We are slowly updating the website, Maria. I've got to be honest with you, and I know I pretty much say this every week that we're going to be updating the website. We've just gone through probably the busiest period. Certainly the busiest March and April I've had in, I can't remember in how many years, and I am slightly behind on that, and I do have a number of new properties to go on there as well. But yes, if you do send me an email, if there's ones in particular that you're interested in, I will obviously let you know if they have sold. But there are a few on there that have been sold, but we are working on that now as we speak to get the new ones on the system and the ones that have been sold marked up as sold. So there you go. We'll get that done as soon as possible, Maria, with no problem at all. Okay, brilliant. Let's get started. How to avoid early pitfalls. So this does sound like I'm going to be getting a little bit sort of, well, I am going to be getting serious. I'm always serious to a certain extent. But as I said, the last thing I want to do is scare anybody. The idea of these live streams is to make you all feel confident about coming out here, make you all feel, that getting rid of all the rubbish that people talk about on social media and that kind of thing about buying a property in Italy, because it really is, it's a safe place to buy a property. And as I've always said, it's all about using the right people. So tonight I'm going to go through a few things that there's a couple that's really serious that I want to talk to you about, because there's been quite a bit of stuff on YouTube, on certain YouTube channels where it's affected certain people, people that are not necessarily registered, have registered businesses and that kind of thing. And I do want to touch on that because it's a really important one. But before we do that, I want to give you just a few off the wall things for you to think about before you come out, because these are really important. I've had lots of emails about these subjects, so they're a little bit random to start with. Bear with me, and then we'll sort of start getting into some sort of a role. First thing, unfortunately, at the moment, Canadians cannot buy properties in Italy. Shannon's saying, you don't have competition. What in the world are you talking about? That's nice of you. Sorry, going back to Canadians. Unfortunately, because the Canadian government changed the rules for foreigners buying, including, when I say foreigners, I'm going to say including Italians, Italy works on a reciprocal agreement. So there's lots of that. If you do a search on the internet and write in Google, right, can I buy a property? I'm an Australian or I'm a Canadian. Can I buy a property in Italy? It will come up. The vast majority will come up saying, yes, you can. And even from some lawyers and things like that. And I don't know. It seems that nobody seems to want to update any of this information. And I am getting a lot of people asking me about it. But there is a restriction now for Canadians buying properties in Italy. And it's to last the length of time that the Canadian government have put on for foreigners buying there, which is a couple of years, basically. I was only on Facebook the other day where somebody said the Italians haven't caught up with that fact. It's not true. We're going to sign in 60 days. unfortunately, it is true. So we could sit and argue about it all day long, but it is true. There are some circumstances where, and there's lots of sort of grey areas and lots of things that need clarifying. But speaking to my notary and speaking to another 2 notaries, they are fully aware that they cannot accept acts from Canadians at the moment. If you're going to become a resident or something like that, there may be something, if you're moving out here and you're going to get permission to stay and get your visas and that kind of thing. I'm waiting for clarification from my notary about that that side of it. If you are Italian citizens, or maybe if you're a citizen of Europe, or another country that has reciprocal agreements with Italy, then you will be able to pay. So if you've got 2 passports, maybe you've got a Canadian passport, maybe you've got a US passport. I don't know if you can have both, but if you can, and you do have, then you can buy using your US passport. It's not so much where you live, it's to do with your citizenship. So unfortunately, I have had people that have said that have pointed me to YouTube. I watched the most boring live stream that I've ever seen in my life. And I skipped through it. Listen to this person who apparently has found a workaround it. And at the end of it all, what I understood is he didn't understand, and there was no workaround because it was still have a word with your notaries. So from the feet on the ground, talking to people who I've spoken to, you can't. If you've got a contract in place already, so if you registered a deposit contract, and so it must be registered, and you've got this deposit contract in place, then they will honour the sale, as far as I'm aware. But that, I wanted to let you know that, because I do get a lot of emails on that, and that is obviously a big thing. Mike saying, I was looking at the new Canadian regulations, and it appeared to me that the restriction applies to towns and cities with more than 10,000 residents. Maybe a loophole. Again, Mike, I've heard that as well, but there is nothing that I've got from the notary that tells me that, because they work literally on a reciprocal agreement. So if they're saying no to Italians, then the Italian government will say no back. So up to now, I'm not backtracking, up to now, I've not been told any other workaround. And it was a message that I got not so long ago from my notary that gave me the ruling that they've been given. So if you are Canadian, there are some people saying some notaries are still doing it. That I can't answer. But the law at the moment works like that. It also works for people from New Zealand. It also works for people from Australia. The difference between New Zealand and Australia, as far as I know so far, is that if you're becoming a resident, then you can. Like, for instance, if an Italian wants to become a resident of Australia, then they apply for the visa, do everything else, buy a house, then they can do that. So the reciprocal agreement works back this way. But if you're in Australia, and I've had people recently that have contacted me that have been looking at properties, can't wait to get over, and they had no idea that that restriction was on there. So when I'm talking about how to avoid early pitfalls, some of these random bits to start with are a little bit random, but that's the truth. So yeah, if you are coming from Canada or anywhere like that, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, there are also other countries, you need to check if your country has a reciprocal agreement with Italy. If they have a reciprocal agreement with Italy where Italians can buy in your country, then you've got no problem at all. Okay, so that's the first one. Let me cross that one off. Buying a car. To buy a car in Italy, you must be a resident. There's no way around it. Buying a car in Italy, you must be a resident. Now, some people, you know, they'll talk about, for instance, the UK, where I come from. They say, well, you don't have to be a resident. What any relevance another country has no relevance, because it's got to be the country that you're moving to. So if you're wanting to buy a car, you must be a resident. You can't just have an address. You can't just have a house and then say, I have a house. You must be resident. And people from the UK that maybe want to say to me, I don't think that's right, because in the UK, a European can do X, Y, Z. That's not true either, because if an Italian went to the UK to buy a property, to buy a car, then if they've got an address, they may be able to buy a car. But where are they going to get their insurance from? Because people won't insure you if you have a foreign driving license, or you can only drive for so long on a foreign driving license. And there's all that kind of thing. So there's similar restrictions, I'm guessing, in most countries. I can't imagine, I could be wrong, but I can't imagine that I could just go to Australia and buy a car. I wouldn't have thought I would be able to do that. Maybe somebody can tell me, yes, you can. Fair enough. But here in Italy, you need to be resident. You don't need to be a citizen. Citizenship and residency are completely different things. Because some people also ask me, if I'm an Italian citizen or I'm waiting for my citizenship to come through, is it better to wait to get that so I pay less taxes? No, it doesn't make any difference. You pay less taxes if you're becoming resident, not if you're a citizen. So that's another twist on that side. So what you need to do if you are buying from outside of the EU, and now they've made agreements with the UK, is if you're coming, I'm going to say from the US, if you're coming to the US and you're coming to live here in Italy, then you can, once you've got your residency, then you can buy your car. But, and there's a but, let me just answer this question that Pete's saying, who I've just spoken to half an hour ago. How long do you have to drive on your US driver's license before you have to get an Italian driving license? Now, that's a good question, Pete, because it's one that I can't remember the answer to. I know it used to be, for us, it used to be a year, but I seem to think that it's a little bit less that from the, no, I think it is still a year. Tony, if you can, I don't know if you've got the, he's shaking his head at me now, but I think it's for your first year. But there is some good news on this. Hopefully, it's still nothing's been put down in stone yet. But yeah, so you've got a year to do it, and you do have to pass your test again, which is ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous, but you have to do it. So you do have to pass your theory test, which is multiple choice. There are books that can help you with that kind of thing, that are in dual languages. In fact, on one of our webinars, Craig on the Craig and Lexi Meet the Home Buyers, he actually showed the book that he got to help him, and there are multiple choice questions, and you can get an app and you can practice. Craig, I'm talking about him now because I mentioned his name. He did it. He came out here, he studied it, he put his time and effort in, and he did it, and he passed the theory test, and then obviously he passed his driving test because he's been driving a long time, and I think anybody that failed him would have just been ridiculous. So I don't think the driving is a problem, but obviously you've got to get a grip of the language. But you've got to get this into your mind that you have to do it, unfortunately, at the moment, because you can't just transfer your US license or other outside of the EU. They've done a deal with the UK now, which I think you can with the UK. So Pete's saying he's had a year. It is a year, Pete. It is just something was in my mind for 6 months, but it is a year unless things have changed recently. But you do have to do that. Gary's saying, can you lease a car? I'm looking into that for somebody else that's asked me to look into a couple of options for them, because they've seen some details of potential ones that if you're in the process of doing things, that you can lease. So I think there is some long-term rentals or long-term leases that you can do, but I'm not going to answer that 100%, Gary, because I'm not 100% certain. So what you do need to, I'll come back to that question in a sec. Can we ship our car there from the US? Yes, you can, but first of all, it'll cost you quite a lot to do that, obviously. Obviously, if it's a nice car, you're going to want to do that. The other problem that you have, unfortunately, is for the first year, you're restricted to the size engine that you can drive because you're classed as a new driver. So those of you who are used to driving around, which I've no doubt, especially in the States and Canada and places like that, in your sort of huge cars, you're not going to be able to drive that, unfortunately, for the first certainly for the first year of you being here. You do have to have a reduced motor size, unfortunately. These are just realities. Don't let it put you off moving out to Italy, because there's far more things to life, but the things that you should consider, the things that you should definitely think about before you make the jump to come over here. So Kevin's saying, if I buy a house in Italy and visit 3 to 5 months a year, I would have to rent a car every time I visit. Yes, because you can't own a car until you become a resident. So if I've spoiled a few of your the reality is it is the truth. Is it true for Vespas and e-bikes as well? Vespas, I believe it is. E-bikes, no, the e-bikes, anybody can drive them with no problem at all. Vespers, I'd have to double check on that. But there is possibly a silver lining to all of this, and that is that the EU have decided to start talking about whether they should be allowing people to swap their licenses. So I saw something on that, and it was splashed all over the internet about 3 weeks ago. I've not looked into it any further, but it said that it is being taught to EU level, where they are thinking that it's a little bit outdated to get people to take the test and that kind of thing again. So hopefully on some level that will change. But the reality at the moment is that. So unfortunately, you do have to get used to that. And you do have to think about getting your test and things like that. For those of you who are moving out pretty quick, I do know somebody who does online sessions that literally does talk about these kind of things, that teaches people for wanting to take the driving test. So obviously get in touch at the info at. Stephen is saying, if you come from another EU country to Italy, do you still have to retake the driving test? No, you don't. If you come from another EU country, then you can swap your driving license. You did have to do it for the UK. There is some sort of agreement in UK at the minute. Not 100% certain whether they've actually made it so you can actually swap it yet. But there was talk about that. These are things that, especially coming from the UK, because of Brexit and all that kind of thing, there's still things sort of up in the air, and they're still talking about these kind of things. But yes, outside of, unless the EU do start talking and change it. So what has this got relevance to do with buying a property? Well, it has a lot to do with it. If you're thinking, like the person that asked me the question about the 3 months, coming 3 to 5 months at a time. First of all, you can't come for 5 months at a time if you're outside the EU. You can only use your 180 days, 90 days in every 180. So that was, sorry, this was the question here. Yes, you do, but you do have to rent a car every time that you visit. But what you need to do is start thinking about the areas where you're going to buy in, because that will be a huge thing. If you are really dependent on public transport, or you don't want to have to hire a car every time you come, that's going to seriously change where you're looking for properties. So that's going to be a huge thing in your thought process. And it's got to be something that you make sure you tell the person who is showing you around properties. I now am starting to send out questionnaires to people, because you need to be honest with people. If you're going to have a trust relationship with somebody who is helping you through all of this process, then you need to be honest. You need to tell people that your situation, because that is a big one. That is a huge one, because yes, unfortunately, car hire at the moment costs a fortune. Since COVID, I understand that lots of people sold off their fleets of cars and all the rest of it to keep afloat. So now obviously there's less numbers and all, but I hear some scary amounts for car hire. So start shopping around for car hire places is another one, to try and get the cheaper ones, because there are some ridiculous prices. But if you think about coming out for a month, 2 months, 3 months, wherever you are in Italy, you need to find out about public transport, and you need to really do your homework about that, or speak to somebody. Hopefully you'll be speaking to me and coming to Abruzzo. And say, look, this is really important, X, Y, Z, because it will cancel out so many areas. So there's no point. This goes back to something that I might touch on later if we've got time. But when we all talk about looking at properties, and we get on the internet, we have a list of 300 properties because they all look great, that should only be part of your consideration. You need to be honest with the person you're working with and say, look, this is my situation. Or maybe I'll drive now, but maybe in 5 years I don't want to be reliant on. Maybe if my kids are coming to see me, I don't want them to have to hire a car. I want to be able to pick them up from the train station, so on, so. It has to be a huge part of your thought process. And there are places, still fantastic places, where there's lots of public transport. But like, for instance, where I live now, if I was reliant on public transport, I wouldn't be able to live here. And that is the reality of it. That I would not be able to live here if I had to rely on public transport. I'm not far away from public transport, but I can't walk out my door and get something like that. So that has to be a huge thing in your thought process. Okay, let's get rid of that. Here's another few things that people have also asked me about. This seems a strange one, but it is not a strange one. It seems an obvious one, but lots of people do ask me. When you become resident of Italy, they ask if you pay your taxes in other. When you become a resident of Italy, you pay your taxes in Italy. That's how it works. Now, there could be agreements between your home country and Italy where you're not double taxed, but your taxes will be based here in Italy. So you have to declare everything, worldwide income, everything. And that's the same in any country. Any country that you live in for 6 months and 1 day, then you should become tax resident within that country. So 6 months and 1 day in a continue throughout the year. That's why they have this 90 in every 180 and all the rest of it. So you don't get caught out of becoming a resident. But 6 months and 1 day, you pay your taxes here. So some people are under the impression that they can have whatever they want money anywhere else, move to Italy, use all the Italian sort of roads and infrastructures and everything else, but pay tax somewhere else. That's not how it works. You need to register for taxes here when you become a resident. It's a huge one. Huge one, because people become residents and then they think, okay, I'm filling my tax returns out in my home country or wherever, let's just leave it like that. You can get huge fines for that. And I mean eye-watering fines. Don't risk it. We'll be talking about that next week when the tax guy comes on, when Gianluigi comes on, we'll be talking about some of these things. So that's done. There are some excellent schemes. A lot of time you speak to the right people. And there's some great schemes. A lot of you will have heard about the retirement scheme, where you can pay 7% on all your worldwide income. So Marie's saying taxes are really high. Not necessarily. You can get there some fantastic schemes. As I say, the 7% worldwide income is brilliant. You could be earning millions, and if you're lucky enough, and you pay 7% for a certain amount of time, so it's 10 years. There's some great schemes, so it's worthwhile asking. And a lot of the time, to be honest with you, taxes are not huge with a lot of the new schemes they've got now. It's the paying into your pension part that's quite a bit. But lots of you maybe won't do that. If you're coming out here on pension, you just pay the flat taxes and things like that. So there are some great schemes. Eric is saying, if you purchase a house and one person has dual citizenship, should both husband and wife be on the deed, or just the Italian citizen? Again, it makes you don't have to be a citizen to buy a property. So no, is the short answer. But for instance, my wife is an Italian citizen. I'm a British citizen, and we bought this house together. So the citizenship doesn't come into it at all. It's mentioned on the act that you're a citizen. It's all to do with your residence. So no, it can go in both of your names with no problem at all. Okay, another quick one before we start talking about some serious stuff with agents and things like that, or a couple of quick things. When you move out here, let's say you've got your elective visa residence. So if you're moving out here on a pension and you've got enough to be able to enough of a pension to be able to qualify for the elective visa residence, people ask then about healthcare. How does healthcare work? Now, obviously, there's lots of things to look into it in different circumstances and that kind of thing. Some of you could be coming from countries that may have agreements in place where your home country will take care of you even when you're in another country. The Brits had a fantastic scheme with European countries where you could basically take your healthcare from the UK and almost bring it here, if you like. But it's dealt with in Italy, but paid for by the UK government. And that was a great system before the lovely Brexit. It sort of put a bit of a change on all of that. But in general, when you come out here, so if you've never been in Italy before, you've never lived here, you've never paid taxes and that kind of thing. So if you're coming out on one of these visa residences and that kind of thing, you still do have to contribute to the health system until you get permanent residency. And then you should be able to join the health system and carry on. But certainly for the years that you're asking permission to stay and everything gets renewed in a year, you will also have to do the same for your healthcare. And the way that works is up to, I'm giving you these figures. I don't know who comes up with these figures. I think they're fantastic. This is Italy, right? This is brilliant, this. So you pay 7.5%. Okay, that's perfectly normal. 7.5% up to €20,658.27. Who? I want to meet that person that came up with that figure. And I think that is just brilliant. I just love it. So you pay 7.5% up to €20,658.27. Somebody please tell me where that figure's come. We've got to find out where that's come from. I just love it. So as a maximum, let's say you earned 20. I've got my calculator here, by the way. 20,658.27 times 7.5%. You would pay 1,549.37 per year. Okay, that's up to 20,000. It was then goes up from 20,658.28. You then pay 4% up to, get ready for this one. I missed the cents off. Anyway, 51,645. I'm sure there'll be some cents on that as well, because the same guy or the same person, same lady, whoever, must have done that little bit as well. There must be some cents. Anyway, so between 20,658.28 to a maximum of 51,645, possibly some cents after that. For that section, you will pay 4%. So doing my calculations, I worked out roughly, if you let's say you earn 60k per year, then you will pay approximately, the maximum pay would be 2,788.84 per year. That's roughly 232.4 per month. Now, I know people potentially coming from the States will say that's nothing compared to what you guys pay out. People coming from the UK, they've probably just fallen on the floor because we're not used to paying for anything like that. But at the end of the day, when the UK was part of the EU, it was different because things were shared. I don't know if the old S1 system still exists, but you've not paid anything into a system, so you do have to pay out, unfortunately. Now, if you're coming out as a couple, and let's say you're both in pension, but one hasn't got any pension at all, and the other one does, then it's done on each person. So if your partner or whoever it is doesn't earn anything at all, then they have to pay a minimum, which is, let's see, this is another great one, €387.34. Why? Somebody please find out. Somebody for next week, find out, and I'll let you come on the cameras and you tell us all why. So 387.34 is the minimum that you would pay. So if you come here and you say, I have zero income, which is probably not going to apply to most of you, because to have zero income coming in on an elective visa residency, then you're just basically saying that you don't have any money to live on. But maybe one of you out of the couple doesn't have an income, so you'll pay the minimum of 387 per year. Okay, so that is so it's not free to start with, but then once you get onto the process and once you then get your permanent residency and all that kind of thing, then that does change. But that is a reality as well that you have to think about, you have to consider. Having said all of that, wine is so cheap here, then you're not going to get anywhere near those figures. If you add your wine bill up, if you don't drink, well, that's just unfortunate. But if the rest of you, the 99.9% of you, add up your wine bill at the end of the year, it's going to be cheaper to have a health policy here in Italy, and it's a great system as well. There you go. So think of it that way. Try and put a bit of positive on it. Okay, what can I say? Okay, the last one before we start talking about who you should be working with and who you shouldn't be working with. We've touched on this on other live streams as well. I want to throw it into the mix as part of the preparing and things, the early pitfalls, because it does happen a lot where people come out, they've got it dead set in their mind. This is the kind of house that I want, and this is where I want it. And I always say to you, and people will be sick of me saying it, be open-minded. I actually wrote here, when I write these notes, I've put rustic can be awkward and ugly can be beautiful. I think I'm becoming a bit of a poet. Don't you think, Tom? A bit of poet? No? Okay. Anyway, rustic can be awkward. What do I mean by that? Some people say, Dave, I want a stone property with huge windows. I want it to be a rustic sort of farmhouse and with nice huge windows and looking out over the Tuscan Valley or wherever it is. The reality of that is rustic can be awkward in the sense of you can't just open up stone houses. You just can't do it. You're not allowed to by law. You can't just put beams in there to say, well, okay, I've taken this wall down, but I've put supporting beams in. Yes, you can physically do it, but you can't do it here by law. It would never be passed. So what I mean by that is be open to the kind of property, because we wanted the big rooms and the light rooms and the big windows. And the style of house we went for, I'm sure some of you saw it on the live stream that I did about our restoration, was a shocking looking property. It was I must have been doing something strange the day that we chose, or should I say, because our property was terrible to start with. And that's what I mean about being open-minded, because when we came in the house, it had huge high ceilings and it just seemed to be really bright and airy. So the thing of sort of thinking, putting yourself in one thing and think, no, I want this stone look, I want this, and I want this rustic thing, but I want X, Y, Z, you have to get that out of your mind, because it's the rustic and big open spaces doesn't always go together. In the same breath that when I say ugly can be beautiful, it literally can be, because you can work on your properties. So our house, as I say, was a shocking looking property. I don't mind saying it. It really was. But things like that can be worked on, but it had the things that we wanted. We had the high ceilings, we had the bright rooms, we had all that kind of stuff. Whereas you can't make some properties fit into the most important things. And what I do tend to find is what becomes really important to the vast majority of people that come out are views. So there's so many properties where I will do a video for, or I'll do photographs of, put them on the site, and I will get loads of emails. And you just know the kind of property that it's going to be. You just know you're going to get bookings on the back of it. You're going to get everything else on the back of it. And then you get the ugly property that nobody wants to buy, that you just know that nobody will book an appointment on that. And that's why I don't ignore, because it sounds rude to say that, but I do really. When people give me a list of the houses they want to see, I always add things on that I want to add. Not because I do it for a reason. And when people get there, the vast majority, nobody shouted at me yet, say, I get you now. I understand why, because look, I'm on this roof terrace that's just amazing. My building's not particularly nice, but I can work with that and I can do things with that. And that I've got this outside space, or I've got this view. Whereas that beautiful, typical Italian property, and a good classic example of it is a video I put on recently in Sulmona. Brilliant town. This property in the heart, right in the center of Sulmona, is a little bit dark because it's in the oldest part of the center. 69,000 euros. And some of the comments that people put on there is unbelievable, but I knew it would get a mixed reaction, because people sort of look at things in a different way. But I thought that, I didn't think, because I do know this, but when you put if I would have just put photographs on, I guarantee that people would have said, that looks fantastic, made the brightness of the photographs a little bit, stand out a little bit more, see the rustic thing. People would say, I want to see that property, I want to see that property. You put a video on it and show the realities of living in some of these buildings, and it's completely different. Like today, went to see an apartment. These people have asked me to do a video. I've done a video that's going to be coming out the next couple of days. It's a modern apartment. So there's nothing Italian. You could be anywhere in the world, but it's fantastic. It's so bright. The views are nice. The terrace is great. So it's really important not just to say, this is the style I want, because in your mind, it may completely change. And what some people will do is they get themselves fixed so much on the type of property they think they want. When things go wrong, or they come out and think, actually, these properties I'm looking at, there's a lot of work that needs to go into these, or there's lots of this, and even though it looks very Italian, it's a little bit shabby, it needs more work than what I thought. And then all of a sudden, you're out here, you've got limited time to view properties. You think, maybe we should have listened to Dave when he said, be open-minded. It's a huge one, that one, because that is a pitfall, because so many people will come out and they've wasted their time. Because all of a sudden you show them something on the last day and say, what about this kind of thing? They're like, oh my God, why didn't we see this before? Look at these views. This is unbelievable. Or look at this location. Look at this. So don't pin yourself on one type of property, because that is like a pitfall. You will just waste your time. Be open-minded. Okay. Bob is saying, what's the best way to find a good geometer, and are English-speaking ones hard to find? English-speaking ones are quite hard to find. I would say best way to find a good geometer, in my opinion, I always say to speak to the agents or the people that you're dealing with, to see if they know somebody. Town halls, you've only got to go onto Google and just put geometers in whichever town, and you'll get loads of them. The town halls have their own, the communes have their own geometers that look after things within the council. The easiest thing is on the Google search. But what I would say, Pete's right what he's saying there, that we have geometers that we've worked with for years and trust you. And to me, it's a huge thing to have the right geometry. It really is. So yes, when it comes to our side, we have people that we're dealing with and have done for years. But yeah, it isn't, in my opinion, is really important. And I would say ask the person who you're dealing with, because they will use geometers. Most agents will have I'll come back to that question in a second, Tony. Most estate agent, people like that, will have a geometry that they use because they're so useful. Because sometimes when you collect documents and you look at the documents and something's wrong with the documents, you think, how's that going to be sorted out? How long is it going to take? How much is it going to cost? You give it to a geometer. You know, that's what I do. When people say to me, Dave, I love this house. This is the house I want to buy. Help me. Let's get this place done. The first thing I do is send everything to my geometer and say, have a look at that. Just tell me the situation. Is it all right? Can we go ahead? Can we start booking the notary, getting everything else in place, or what needs to happen? So that's a big thing. But ask the people that you're working with. Some people say, no, don't ask your agent, because they might be getting something out of the geometer, or they'll know that geometer. They'll tell him to say this X, Y, Z. But lots of people say that. People have said that to me as well. And I think a lot of the time that's a load of rubbish. We do the legwork. I do the legwork between me and my wife. We've been doing this for nearly 18 years, getting contact for people to make it easier for you, you know, not to make it harder and make the job harder and things like that. You know, if somebody wants to buy a property and they come to us for help, I don't want to be spending my life, sounds rude to say this, but I don't want to be spending a year on every single, you know, on dealing with a sale for you. I just don't want to do that. It doesn't make any sense for you, and it doesn't make any business sense for me. So I would say, you know, you need to trust people's contacts, because that's what it's all about. If you don't trust the contacts, you shouldn't be dealing with them. Okay. So we've got Joe here. Yes, but some geometers are lazy. Try to cut corners. Don't do new plans as they should. Then the town will reject the application. Okay, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm going to take a little bit. Just put that question back up again, Tony. I'm going to take a little bit of issue with this, and I'm sorry. It sounds like you've got an Italian surname, so you may come back at me and say I'm talking rubbish. Right. First of all, some geometers are lazy. There's lots of people that can be lazy in life. You know, there's lazy in anything. Okay, so that I don't think is a really fair comment. But I'm trying to be nice. I'm not being rude, honestly. Try to cut corners and don't do new plans as they should. Not sure what you mean about that, because, you know, if you employ a geometer to do something, you know, then the plans are there for you to look at as well. So you need to be the one. Then it says then the town hall reject the application. But that's not strictly true either, because it's not really the commune have to do the give you the stamp to say yes, you can get on with it. But I don't really understand what you're sort of trying to get at there, because it's sort of implying slightly that I know you're saying some geometers are lazy. I'm going to take a little bit of issue with that, because you know, we could say that about anything in life, as I said before. But the things with don't do the new plans as they should. Now, if I'm having some work done on my house, okay, I'm going to be having some work done really soon, actually. And I've told my geometer how I want that to look. Now, it's not that he just goes off and does what he wants and then sends it in, and then the town hall say, or the commune say, why are you asking for a block of flats put in your garden when you know you can't have it? You know, these, at the end of the day, when you're having plans done, I say to the geometer, I'm thinking about doing this. Can I do it? Yes, you can. Okay, how do you want it to look? Well, I want it to be like this. Okay, here's the plans. I'm at that stage now, is giving me some plans and saying to me, check that. Is that how you want it? So I don't really see how, you know, if you've got some people that are not playing ball, or the sort of, I don't know, they're saying, yeah, whatever, well, we'll see, you know, is this design all right? Then obviously you walk out of the office. But I wouldn't. It's sort of it's lots of geometers that I know that are extremely good. I don't mean to take issue with you, John. I just think sometimes general statements, can be a little bit harmful to people. You should know when you're speaking to somebody, whether you think you can trust these. None of us, we've all lived on planet Earth for a reasonable amount of time. We know if we're going to buy a car, you know, from some dodgy car dealer that sort of whispering to somebody else and nudging and all that, like something if you see it off a film or something, we know, you know, I don't think we can generalize in that way, because I will say I do slightly disagree with that. Okay, this has gone on longer than I thought, Tony. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this, but this is an important one. So let's just cut to this one. There's been some videos on YouTube recently, some channels similar to ours, where somebody has been reported to authorities for certain things. I want to clear things up about how a estate agent works. First of all, let me make it really clear that I am not an estate agent. And I've said, and I make it quite clear to people, we are not estate agents. We were founding members of an estate agency, how many years ago now? 15, 16 years ago, and was with that estate agency for 15 years. And we were a registered estate agency and did our work in that way. As time went on, a long time went on, I felt I wanted to move into a different direction. Other people didn't agree with me. So we then decided to set up this company that we have now. And we are registered as property consultants and translations and that kind of thing. Now, the reason why we did that was to be flexible about who we can deal with and what we can deal with. In the sense of, if somebody calls me up and says, Dave, I'm thinking about buying a house in wherever, Calabria, will you help me? Will you be here? Because the language, there's a bit of a problem. I can't come back for the signing. I need somebody to do power of attorney. That's what we do. That's the kind of thing we do. We also have a property portal where we advertise properties from private owners, private sellers. We also advertise properties from other agents. And if we deal with other agents or other owners, or you find a property that you want to buy, we have a range of services that will take you through the entire buying process. So that goes down to translation, sorting out power of attorneys, everything else. What we can't do is ask for a commission. I cannot ask you for a commission for a sale. Okay, so I can't say to an estate agent can and do say, quite rightly so, that's their job, that if you buy a property from Joe Blogg's estate agent, it's going to cost you €3,000 plus VAT, or whatever it is, 3% plus VAT, whatever that may be, for the property, to buy the property. It's a commission that you do for that. They don't have to do anything else for you. Lots of them do, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and slag estate agents off, because that is not how we work at all. I'm just trying to tell you the difference. So they will charge a commission. They will charge a commission to the owner as well. Now, I can't charge a commission to the owner. I can't charge a commission to you. What I can charge you, and what I do charge you, is for the services that we offer to look after the whole process of getting you the property. Now, I prefer to work in that way because it gives me a lot of flexibility on who we can deal with, what we can deal with. My point behind all this is we are registered. We are legally registered to have self-employed businesses and do what we do. Wendy's saying we're working with David. Wendy, I'm hoping without knowing, I'm hoping that she'll do the meet the home buyers in 2 weeks. I've not asked them yet, so stay quiet. Anyway, Wendy, we're working with David, and we trust him to choose the professionals needed and guide us through the entire home buying process. You need to trust who you are working with. That is, and I agree with that. And it's great when people do trust us, and that's where we put our effort. That's why I sit here on a Thursday night. I enjoy doing these. I do it to try and give you the trust that you think, actually, I think I can trust that guy, because it is a huge sort of step what you're doing. But the most important thing is to make sure that we're legal. You're registered. You're dealing with a business. Now, unfortunately, there are lots on the internet that shouldn't be doing what they're doing. But there's easy ways to find them out. And the other problem is some people know that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, but they choose to deal with this type of business because they speak their own language. Maybe they're like me, maybe somebody from the UK only wants to deal with somebody from the UK, somebody from the US wants to deal with somebody from the US. They do the search on the internet. They find some great properties. There's also people that may be advertising on some of the most famous sites, the internet portals like ours, and disguising themselves as things they shouldn't be. Usually they will call themselves maybe property finders. I'm not saying that every property finder is not registered. I just want you to know how to find out if somebody is registered or not. But just beware that having somebody that speaks your language and speaks the way you know 100% this person's understanding shouldn't mean then that you give a green light to use them, to look after everything for you, because there's lots of people out there, unfortunately, and there's lots of video channels, and I'm going to say it because I've read the thing, and there's so many things that I completely disagree with, and some of these video channels have a large amount of fun. They have sometimes sort of 2-3 times what we have, and I'm really happy with how our channel's going. But I can put my money where my mouth is, and there's so many people that I see, and some of these courses that people go on that are just unbelievable prices, where they say join our online course. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing sat here every Thursday doing it for free when these people are doing it for thousands sometimes? You get these online free courses. I don't agree with anything like that, because I don't think that my knowledge of 18 years is right to say to you, you need to come on this course. You need to learn from me, and I'm going to charge you X amount to do it. And I think even less of the people that I know haven't got a clue what they're talking about, and there's lots of them. But I'm all up for anybody that wants to choose to go with the different businesses and all the rest of it. I'm up for that. I'm up for competition and all that kind of stuff. I think it's perfect. But we need to be on a level playing field. Everybody needs to be registered in some way, shape, or form. So I can hear you saying, so tell me then, Dave, how do we know if this person is genuine? So let me just tell you, estate agents, agenzie immobiliari, okay, they need to be registered in a different way to everybody else, in the sense of every business in Italy should have an IVA number, IVA number. It's a bit like a VAT number. So even though I am on a tax scheme where I don't have to charge you VAT, which is great for you, and it's great for me as well because it's a good tax scheme, but I still have to have an IVA number, and I have to put that IVA number on my publicity. So that includes websites and things like that. And the easiest way to do, even if you've been visiting a website for maybe months and months and months, and you think, no, I'm going to see these people one day, I'm going to do this, you won't have even maybe gone, or you'll read them about in the about section. It'll say, so-and-so and so-and-so does this, and they've been living in Italy for so long, and they've been helping hundreds and hundreds or thousands of people to buy their properties and blah, 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 blah. And you read it and you think, oh, this is great. They speak my language. They look a nice couple. They'll have the photographs on there and the kids and everybody else. And here's a few more happy clients. Look at us all in the bar having a drink and all that. That's all great. But then when you look at the bottom of the web page, there's no address. There's no address. There's no mention of an IVA number. And there's a mobile number. So telephone numbers here, landline telephone numbers, begin with a 0. I don't mean the 0039 for the Italian number. They begin with a 0. Now, I advertise my landline number now. I used to advertise my mobile. I'm not saying everybody that advertises mobile are dodgy. I'm not saying that at all. But when there's no address, there's no mention of an IVA number. Maybe they're charging in dollars, because that might sound better for you if you're coming from the States. Or look at this, it's costing me X amount of dollars. Why would you charge in dollars if you're in the EU? So then the excuse may come out, well, we don't actually live in Italy. Well, yeah, but your website says you've been here, you live here with your partner, and you help people do X, Y, Z. That you've got a business, your business is registered in wherever. These are all classic things because people don't want to be registered here. Now, some people may say, and I saw some comments on a particular thing where people saying, I think it's terrible when people want you to stop doing certain things. That rather they should just get on with their own business and ignore your business. I agree with that to a certain extent. But for me, it's a responsibility. When somebody wants to buy a property, it's a huge purchase. We're not talking a few quid. We're talking a few quid. I sound really English now, Yorkshire. That's my real Yorkshire accent. We're not talking a few euros. We're talking tens of thousands of euros and all the rest of it. People that deal with you and take large amounts of sums off you as well, because some of these people can take huge amounts off you. They should have the knowledge, first of all, and they should be registered, in my opinion. And these are things that people don't look for. So you need to go to the bottom of these websites. Check every website you've been looking at. I'm not talking about Idealista. I'm not talking about Immobiliare and all. Even though they will have their even numbers, I'm sure of that. It'll be somewhere down there. But they're property portals. That's a different thing altogether. If somebody is saying they're an estate agency, then look for their EVA number and look for their REA number, because that's a number, or it should be mentioned on there that they're registered at the Chamber of Commerce in wherever as, and they are legal estate agents. And that's fine. But if you don't see any of that information, or you're looking for property finders and all that, you could even say businesses like mine, you need to look on the website and make sure, I'm happy to put my EVA number, and Tony's writing the EVA number. So the REA number is the one that relates to estate agents. The EVA number relates to businesses. I'm happy to put that because I want you to know that I'm a registered business. When I charge you an invoice, I pay taxes on that. I'm not doing it just to be the good tax-paying man, because there's nobody more upset than me when the accountant turns around and says you own this. That's not the point. I'm doing a service for somebody for a huge purchase, and helping people to spend lots and lots of money. I should have the decency to be registered correctly, in my opinion. I think, and not only that, I do think there's too many ways around things. There's too many, which is fine. In like I say, if you're spending, I don't know, €10 and somebody walks into a restaurant that you're eating in and selling umbrellas, and they ask €10, you're not going to say, can I see your business card? Can I see your detail? You're buying a house. We wouldn't do it with a car. We wouldn't just go to a dodgy deal. But the problem is you get a lot of these disguised as, nice websites. And I say lots of people on there. It just needs digging a little bit more. How are you doing that? How does your business work? Don't be scared to ask questions, because people that are registered should be happy to give you the information that you ask for, should be happy to give you their tax details and that kind of thing. But if all of a sudden you get to the bottom of that page and it says, and you ring the person and just say, look, I really want to deal with you, but I've been told that I need to look for EVA numbers and this kind of thing, but I see that your business is registered in wherever it may be, but I see you mention here that you live in Italy, and I'm just a little bit confused because I ask the questions. It may sound, an obvious thing, but people don't. And unfortunately, then somebody else has to mop certain situations up as people go along, because something happens. There's no comeback on that person, But some websites that I got, when somebody said, I've been looking at this website, and I look at these sites and I think, it's so obvious. It's so obvious what is happening here. But I think, again, once we're desperate to do something, I can feel that people are desperate to buy their dream property in Italy and all the rest. I understand all that. I've been there. I've done it. Almost to the point where you'll do anything to get that little bit of, that you've been looking for so many years, that little bit of happiness. Finally, I can own my own piece of Italy. You need to get that part of your brain that is usually the ladies that have that part of the brain. They have the sensible parts of the brain that something happened to us during evolution where that's all gone for us. Usually it's the ladies that do that. We need to have that, just that little niggle, especially when you're jumping on an airplane, wherever you're coming from. You plan on spending tens of thousands. You're planning on asking this person to sort out power. Just say, how do you work? I'm happy to talk to people about that. How do you work? Who do you work with? Just ask the questions. But do your research, first of all, on the internet. Go straight to the bottom of the page. What's written there? On the bottom of mine, it's written, my address is on there. Don't be knocking on my door at 2, 3 in the morning, because I won't be happy. It has my address on there. It has a landline. Yes, that landline does have a answer machine on it, because I'm forever out of the office, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, that's where I should be. It has my EVA number. It has things like that. I raise an invoice. I do my services. It's open. I want it to be open, and you need to do that. So go to the bottom of the page. Is there an address there? Is there a telephone number? Is there just a telephone number and no address? Does it mention in the About Us section? Does it mention where they are? Does it say anywhere on the website that, that maybe that gives any hints. Here's another good hint for you. Anybody that pulls down estate agents or pulls down another type of business, they're the ones to watch for. So because that's anybody that says you need to. I actually wrote something else down. I forgot to say this. The "Don't do it without me" brigade. How good's that for a saying? Don't do it without me brigade. When I run these sessions, I'm not doing these sessions to scare the life out of you, to say you need me. You need me. Everything you do here, you need me. Because that is me being part of this "Don't do it without me" brigade. And I'm not part of that. I disagree with that kind of sales pitch. Anybody that's doing that on the internet, anybody that says the bureaucracy is a nightmare, we'll guide you through, we'll steer you through these, it's not, yes, it's something that is alien to you and you don't understand it. It's not an absolute nightmare. Believe me, it's not. Because once you know what you're doing, then and you're dealing with the right people, it's a simple, safe process. As soon as you get somebody that says, no, you must have me, no, this is a nightmare, this can happen, and what about if this happens? What about if you buy a property and then the real owner comes back to you the following week and says, we want the property back? What about that? Oh, please. It's not how, life doesn't work like that. We're not in some film. Watch for those people. So, simple. I'm sorry to keep you over the hour. All of these websites, all these people that you're dealing with, go to the bottom, go to the About Us. Have a look to see if you can find anywhere their registration numbers. Where are they based? Are they based outside of Italy, but they're claiming to be in Italy? Are they based outside of Italy, but they've got contacts in Italy? That's fine. They could have got a registered business outside of somewhere else. That's absolutely fine. That would like be me, for instance, if I had I've got a registered business, and I recommend, I don't know, somebody wants to buy a property in Dubai, and I've got a friend in Dubai, and I say that all things like that is fine because I'm registered. I can do what I do. When I raise you an invoice, I can do that. I'm asking you in euros. I'm asking you in euros because I live in a place where, if I was asking you for in dollars, I've got to wait until I go to Disneyland before I can spend that. It's just these things, look at them. This all goes back to what I always say. Get to know the people that you're going to deal with. Trust those people. And once you've got that trust, life becomes so much easier. And I'm sure that's anything in life, but certainly when you're spending lots and lots of money. So do those checks. Follow the other things that we spoke about tonight. And when you come out here looking for a property, you'll come out with a smile on your face, and you'll be really appreciative that you did. Okay, guys. Well, I'm so sorry to take you over the hour. Really appreciate how many people stayed in listening to me rabbit on for all that time. I hope you've got something out of this. I am quite passionate about these kind of things because I do think they're important subjects. They're really important. It's a massive amount of money, and it could be things you've been saving for all your life. It could be, your dream to be moving out here for pensions and that kind of thing. Don't let it be ruined by something that you could have checked on and avoided really, really quick. If something doesn't seem right or something doesn't sound right, ask the questions, because there is nothing here that's too complicated that only I know about, that a mere mortal like you would never understand. There is nothing that complicated on that. That means if somebody's saying, oh, this is very complicated, but I'm doing something's not quite right, just deal with the right people and you're going to be absolutely fine. And you're going to love living out here in Italy, I'm sure of it, or holidaying here in Italy. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Remember to join us again next week, next Thursday, where I'm hoping, well, he will be coming along. Mr. Grim Reaper, Gianluigi, will be here talking about all the nasty things in life, such as taxes and that kind of thing. But he's a great person. I'm sure you're going to get a lot out of that. And then we'll do Meet the Home Buyers again the week after. Thank you so much for your continued support. Please keep liking us and chatting away on YouTube and that kind of thing. It really, really helps the channel. Put a few likes on there, put a few comments and all the rest of it. It really, really does help. And I'll be in touch really soon with some more fantastic videos of properties. Thank you again. We'll see you next Thursday for another slice of Italy. See you soon.